everybody, and welcome to the VFX and Chill season finale. This is the end of season 2, and I am here with Michael Zalapsky, who's on this side, which I knew. And how are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing super. We finally got some rain, and it's not 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so life is good. But it's also not 100 degrees Celsius, which would also be bad.
Let's see. Wait, am I doing my? Let me make sure that people can hear Michael. What did I do here? I'm guessing people cannot hear you, and that's definitely my fault. So while
But we want them to hear me.
I want them to hear you. So I'm going to just do this real quick because I think that it will work to add you like that. Hey, now you're full screen, and I'm going to put you back here. Uh, can people hear Michael, by the way? I think that we can now.
Well, hopefully.
All right, let me see what this thing does. I just want to make sure that I have this all plugged in right, Michael. Today, we actually put out a call for we told you to ask us anything. And you're welcome to do that via the chat, but we also asked a few days ago so people could submit some questions online. So they could send in whatever interesting clips they had found around, and so we could throw them all together and discuss them, break them down today. So that is our exciting plan. And and Hashi is a little quiet too. All right, they can hear both of us, but we're a little quiet, or I'm a little quiet. Anyway, why don't we jump into some of the stuff that we were asked about? All right. I think that. All right. Let's see here. Uh, I again managed to not have your audio coming into here, Michael. I don't know what I did that made someone so upset. So let me go fix that so Michael is audible wherever Michael is. I don't know why it really doesn't want to add your audio here.
I mean, people said they could hear me earlier, so maybe it is here. Maybe they are hearing me, even though it looks like they can't.
All right, everyone, let me know if you can hear Michael when we're both in here. I, for some reason, cannot see it, and that's upsetting me. So if you can hear Michael, Michael makes some exciting noise, so they can hear or not.
Oh well, I could sing, a fancy song, or they can just hear me talk. Everyone says they can hear us. We're good.
Okay, cool.
Are there studios that offer paid internship for 3D motion designs? Probably, but you really don't need one these days. You just get a good education and start making work, and you're good. Is with there being free 3D animation software like Blender and Unreal Engine keep doing 3D motion graphics where Cinema 4D come into play. It's got a lot better tool set for motion design and a lot of other things. It's also got better support structure, and it's more stable, and it's more entrenched in studio pipelines, so there are lots of places for it. Billy Rizzo is not going to get a song. Let's go to some of the people who submitted the questions ahead of time. Here's a
Abs-
good one.
Absolutely. Here's a good one, and thank you, Triam Visual, for sending this in for the very first time to our show. Asking if
First
we
time
could
caller.
asking if we could recreate this. No, Triam is an awesome, dedicated fan, and we thought that today would be a lovely day to tackle this Doctor Who portal situation. So, if when I look at this, it looks to me a bit like potentially, you know, that effect where you've got a little laser machine, like a laser projector, and it's cutting out a cool slice of mist. That's what that looks like to me a little bit, like at the beginning here. I think it's possible. So yeah, there. Let me get back to it. Loops here. All right, so yeah, this beginning part looks a lot to me like when you have like a laser beam and it's cutting out a little slice of a cloud or something like that.
Oh yeah. When you're at the club and the smoke machines go off and the lasers go, like you often do, Hashi.
Exactly.
I mean, it does look like that. It looks like when the laser is doing the line, and yeah, I see exactly what you mean. Yes,
exactly,
everyone who's
and
been to those kind of
those
clubs knows what
clubs.
Hashi's talking about.
Yes, I am always out at the aforementioned clubs, clubbing it up, and oh, it's Trium. Sorry, Trium Visual. All right,
Oh,
so
yeah.
so Trium, I decided a little earlier that I would just play around with this effect a little bit, and the way that I would actually
Well, look at that.
tackle something like this is with a slightly more obscure universe plugin that I had not played with a whole lot. There's one called Universe Fractal Background. And Fractal Background just generates an automatically animating, progressing kind of fractal loop. Here I have two of them overlaid. I have this one that is using the billowed fractal type, and I have another one that is billowed but also inverted, so you're sort of getting little globules like that. And then both of these have an instance of universe gradient ramp on top of them. And the reason why I like the universe gradient ramp is that you can assign an alpha value for the start and the end, just like that. So
I mean, I like it because it has a nicer fall off than the one that's built into After Effects. But yes, that is also helpful.
And so what I did with this was just grabbed this piece of footage and then decided to just throw it all into this kind of a situation. I just took it and started kind of folding it around until I actually had kind of a tunnel in the middle here out of it. Nothing super fancy, just a tunnel like that that I could easily turn into a precomposed object and then stretch it out. And so it had more of the dimensions of kind of, it's a little bit more rectangular, I think, at the beginning of that clip. So something kind of like this. And then just to add some extra stuff to it, I threw on an instance of Trapcode Shine, which I could probably pre-process a little bit, so it's just hitting the bright parts. There we go. So you get some little rays and stuff like that, and you can turn the ray length up or down, maybe boost the light a little bit so they're kind of longer, and then turn that ray length up. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting some of those like from the Thing poster, those beautiful, really defined God ray kind of things. And then I just have this little PNG of a TARDIS machine like that, and that gives you kind of this square, lasery tunnel effect, but not a lot of interaction between these two. So I would actually go a step further to do something that Michael suggested earlier. He was like, "Why don't you just grab those and throw them into SuperComp?" And so let's do that. Folks, let me know if I'm still quiet. I tried fixing it, but I'm not sure.
You can always just get right up in ASMR, Mike.
Hey, everybody. All right, so here in SuperComp, what I love is that we could do things like maybe add some optical glow, make this ridiculous. I would actually adjust the highlights only setting in here. That way I can turn it all the way up almost to 100% and then just dial it back just a little bit. So I'm just getting some glow on the teeniest things way back here, kind of behind the door. Oops, maybe more like that. Then I'll turn the roll off up a little bit so that's softer. There we go. Let's see. So that's just giving me a teeny hint of extra glow, which I could also dial up the radiate on, so it'll give me some more, whatchamacallits, little additional rays. And then on the TARDIS itself, I could look at the presets, because half the time if I'm doing something like this, I would just grab something like foggy background or hazy integration and get a pretty good
Hazy
result.
integration is great.
It's just one of my favorites. And I would turn down the haze a little bit on this. I would probably, just so the box would look a little bit darker. And then the light wrap I would make a little bit stronger on the outside.
Heavy-handed.
I'm going all the way in. And then
Hey, Are you doing the encroachment on that too? Yes. Okay, good. I was gonna say encroachment's good.
And on top of this all, let's add some. I don't even remember if it's in the shot or not, but let's add some optical glow. Let's
Yeah, turn the lights
push
on.
it like kind of orangish. Let's dial it to be the highlights only, so the box is, lighting up through there. This could be a smaller amount, but a larger radius. So now look at that. We've got some
Yeah,
glowiness,
looks like someone's home.
and I think in the shot, it's not very impressive what it does. I think that it basically Whoops. Sorry, Doctor. I think it starts.
Sorry, Mr. Doctor Who.
Sorry, Mister Doctor Who.
Mr. the
Um,
Doctor.
yeah, it's just doing a gentle like scale up, and in fact, I think that halfway through the opacity just turns on. I don't think it even does anything fancy. Which, I mean, I can do that. I can just go over here to opacity and super comp, add a keyframe right there, dribble back a little bit, turn that down to 0. There we go. And so now we've got something kind of like this. Let's RAM preview this business. So here's our lasery looking tunnel, and then look, there's the TARDIS doing its thing. Here we are. We're traveling through time. We're having fun. We're going on adventures. It's bigger on the inside. So that was fun. I know that I think right after this, there's an additional element, but what is it? It's a tunnel, kind of warpy looking tunnel thing. There are several movements to this Triumph, so I don't know if we'll jump into all of those. Let me show you separately what I would do for that. If I had just I don't know. Let's do a new composition. I'm just going to do that. And what if I had that original tunnel texture or something like that, and then threw on whoops, not that one. That's weird. What did I call it? Pattern is what I called it. Pattern. And then let's add some CC cylinder. Whoops. CC cylinder, and let's make the radius teeny, and then add a camera. And what's weird is that CC cylinder does not actually have like scale controls. So if you want a long tunnel, you actually have to make the radius really tiny and then like rotate it around. So I would
Or make a really tall solid that you apply it to. The size is very dependent on the size of the solid it's
I
applied
didn't
to.
think about that. That makes absolute sense. So
I mean,
I
it
would-
doesn't.
it
You would
doesn't.
want there to be
It
some sort of
doesn't.
scale controls built in. But whatever.
So let's
This
turn.
is this is our worker.
This is our workaround. I'm turning down the zoom of the factor of the camera a lot. And then I'm just going to move it in here. Now look, we got instant tunnel. And if I had used VR fractal noise or something instead, I would actually have a real tunnel situation here. So what I would do to something that looked a little bit more like this is I would add, I don't know, could you add a glass on top of this? Actually, no, you'd want an adjustment layer with glass on top of it, right? There we go. I don't know, I would do something kind of like this. Turn up that displacement, make the intensity of the light high, and maybe turn down the ambient. I don't know, something like that. It's a little waterier.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. I could see a TARDIS in something like that. In fact, look, I could even put a TARDIS in there. There, it's done.
There, done. TARDIS.
That will be.
I mean, you do the same sort of tricks with Super Comp as well. I'd change the lighting on the CC cylinder too, so it's not so dark in the top left.
That's true. Like I wanted some implied tunneliness, but that is pretty bleak. Let me turn up the specular on the cylinder, and then turn up the intensity. What's cool is
And
that
then turn up the ambient too.
yeah, the intensity of the oh yeah, controls the like what's happening to the glass effect. So it's kind of a weird balance here of what ends up affecting all this business. And what if I added a a radial blur before that, before glass, and then went like
Well, let's find out.
scratch. Oh no, never mind. I would
Yeah,
need
you don't want that.
I would need it on the. I would need a new adjustment layer. But this is. But we.
Now, Lookalike Dolls is asking why are you putting these on adjustment layers
The
as
reason
opposed to on the layer.
because both glass and radial blur want to. Actually, radial blur might have worked, but glass, if it's going to use the lightness property of all this, it needs to be on an adjustment layer so it knows to look at the whole comp below itself. If I were to put glass on the effect with CC cylinder, it would be referencing the original texture and not actually the completed CC cylinder effect. So I could show you that for example. So if I copy this CC glass, turn off that, and then paste it at the bottom here, you get like nothing. And that's because it's using the original pattern without this to try to add highlights to this one in perspective. But I think that is some fun Doctor Who exploration.
I think it's fun, Doctor Who-ish. Purnash Vyans says, using CC Bendit on it will add turns in a wormhole too? No. Not really, no. The CC cylinder does not really give you any good way to bend anything.
Yeah, it's a
If you're needing bends and turns in your wormhole, you're gonna have to either build the wormhole totally differently, like using Trap Code Particular, where you can do it with like a very large hole in the middle sprite and just make a whole bunch of particles in a tunnel shape, or just had it sitting there scaling up and blow the wind either direction. Anyway, there's a lot of ways you could do it, but not using CC cylinder.
I didn't even think of this. What about mirror? Mirror, if I added a cylinder to it like this, and then rotated it 90 degrees.
Adjustment layer does affect all the layers. Well, no, there's a big. An adjustment layer does not affect all the layers below. An adjustment layer applies effects to a composite of all the layers below. So it's not like each layer below has an effect applied to it, because that would have a very, very different reaction depending on the effects you're using. It applies an effect to the composite of the layers below it, which means it's very handy for a lot of things that you couldn't otherwise do, which is nice.
Let's see, I could turn this into
they say one of our mics is significantly louder than the other, but they don't specify which is which, so I guess we're going to have to guess.
Let me see if that could still be me. Let me see if this helps. Let me flip these. All right. Let me know if... I'm assuming that I was too quiet before. Let me know if I am better now that I have done that. But in the meantime, I've added some Trapcode mirror here. I've added some fractal to this cylinder. I think that I can adjust the... I don't know how many pieces are... Why am I forgetting words, Michael? What?
It's been a long season.
I don't remember how complicated this actual cylinder is. All right.
Actually, you're getting quieter and quieter in my ears too, by the way.
Oh, nuts. All right. So let's turn off the noise thing. Let's turn off that.
You might want to move your mic closer too.
I can get right in there. All right, everybody. I'm going to get right in here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm using this 3D model in here, and there's some an amplitude of distortion that I could do on this thing in general. I've stretched out the Y of the cylinder so I could make it more of a big tunnel like that. And then instead of moving the actual tunnel or flying a camera through the tunnel, what I could do is go to the offset Z, or I guess in this case it would be the offset Y of the tunnel. And I think that would move the fractal forward through space. So it would look like we were, going into the tunnel. So let me set a couple of keys just in case this actually would work. So this actually looks a lot like the like hyperspace kind of effect right now.
It does look very hyperspacey.
So the reason I'm getting kind of a janky result is it's using the geometry of the original piece and moving a fractal field through it, but I do not know how much geometry there is actually to get displaced. So it's sort of forcing everything into, there may be only 16 points spread around this or something like that. And so I'm not getting a great smooth effect. Maybe I could try the smooth surface preset or something else, or some, I don't know, what does mirrored metal look like? Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Oh, now we're getting some craziness. Now if I turn this more gray and maybe less, let's see, some high reflectivity, but maybe not that much. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is all a little silly. I would maybe add some fog if I were doing it in mirror. That way I can do this. I can push the fog to start kind of like there, and then...
You know what I was thinking of just now?
There. Oh, what's that?
I just thought of it. Instead of mirror, we have a plugin that's a path in 3D Space.
Oh, we do, don't we?
It's called Trapcode DAO, which is the way or path, depending on how you want to translate things. And that makes a 3D object based on a 3D path based on a mask.
Oh,
or
yeah.
a circle.
So,
yeah.
In this case, we could potentially repeat this path, right? I could use.
Well, I was just gonna say make a mask and have it follow that.
Oh, and then we'd go inside it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you make the path be shaped any way you want, left, right.
Oh, that's
kind
a
of
good
curvy.
point. We did a little bit of that in the Bill and Ted Cheap Tricks.
Which so you can take the circle, go back to the effect and turn the circle off. Yeah, boom.
Stop generating path. And now we've got this thing. And so now if we had our little camera, we could do like a little Star Fox. Wait, let me see. Where's caps are in here somewhere, I think.
Yeah, caps are in there
segment. Paths for masks, enable the paths, repeat paths, offset, caps. There we go. Nice.
Yeah, then you would just make that a circle instead of a triangle, unless you wanted to be cool and have a triangular tunnel, unlike everyone else who does circles like boring people.
Yeah,
and texture it with fractal noise or whatever you wanted.
Yeah, be more like a White Stripes video, less like a tunnel. This reminds me of like going into like that. I remember in Star Fox when they had not exactly animatics, but the computer took over the camera controls, and you would fly through a tunnel or something like that for a kind of a cutscene or transition. Mm-hmm. My mind was blown. I remember my dad watching me play that specific part of the game, and he said, "Wait, that looks pretty cool. Is that part actually interactive?" And I had to say, "No."
He's like, "This is the best part." You're like, "It's not. It doesn't happen. It's not happening, Dad."
But speaking of interactive, please let us know any suggestions or questions that you have here in the chat. And
Hashi, someone does have a question.
Oh, really?
They want to, Vova Vivdik wants to know how to work with diffraction grading.osl on Redshift. And I'm going to tell you, Vova, that this is not the Maxon trainers you want for that sort of question. You want Ellie.
You do want Ellie.
Other folks.
Ellie's
missing. Hashi is not real big on Redshift, and I have not dived into the OSL shaders on Redshift in my work either. Most of my Redshift work has been on client projects where they've already built their own stuff, and my own Redshift experiments that were not client-y stuff. I have not messed with the OSL shaders. I would suggest you hop into the Redshift Discord or just message Redshift on Instagram or Twitter, and they will most likely have an answer for you there. Much better than one that Hashi or I could give you.
That is an awesome answer for that. Someone was asking how I would make the camera follow that space, follow that curve in DAO. And what I would likely do, if I knew I needed a really distinct tunnel, say it was this shape, first of all, I would make it more friendly to the camera to begin with. So I would do something like, I think down here under my world transform, I would rotate this whole thing around like this, you know, negative 90 degrees or whatever, or positive 90 degrees, doesn't really matter. And on, which is the way that I want to flatten it out. Oh, I've got to do it backwards. Order of operations here. There we go. I've got to turn that 90 degrees and then turn, there we go. See, my brain goes wild when it comes down to the order of operations of rotations here. So if I put it flat like this, then what I would do is I would go to maybe to a top view. So I would just go to the top like this, and now you can see your camera and you can see all of that stuff. And so what I would actually do is I would zoom out so I could see my whole shape, and then in the comp move in a little bit like this, and do something more like this. So I'm not actually converting a path into anything, but I could certainly add a keyframe for my camera here at the beginning, a keyframe for my camera here at the end, and since I'm perfectly in top view, if I'm using the controls in here, I'll get a similar result to what I should expect if I were, you know, creating a path using the vector system. So not perfect, but this is what I would do. And let's just see what that might give me. So first of all, let's change the zoom on this camera to much wider and see. Oh, also my camera isn't auto-oriented to its path. So I think you can do that, right? Transform, auto-orient along path. Okay? Dun 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 dun.
Boom.
Dun 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 dun. Dun. That
And
was
we made a longer path.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. And
So just texture it with fractal noise and you're good to go.
And a long time ago on maybe like creativecow.net, I saw someone who talked about how you could export paths to masks and then convert them to something as a way to be able to turn them into motion paths. I don't remember if After Effects even uses the same infrastructure. This was so long ago, but it was to solve problems like this where you had a mask or, you know, a generated path and trying to convert that to something else. But I will do nothing cooler than this today. This is my favorite. I love the low polyness of it. I love that it's a triangle. It's just exciting.
Yeah.
Look at this hallway.
I think this looks cool. You could do a lot of cool things
I'm gonna
with it.
save that. I'm gonna turn this into a crazy something or other. Plus, you could like jump into all of the material settings. You could throw some image-based lighting in here. Let's see what they have. Let's use the industrial room. Oh, this is gonna look crazy. We've got some John Wick stuff going on here. Look at this. Okay, let's turn down the reflection strength a little bit because that's ridiculous. And turn down the shininess.
Shininess down. And there is a bunch of other. Oh my gosh, we've got a bunch of other questions we really need to get to answer. But I really want to keep playing with this.
This is so fun. Look at this hallway
this
shot.
This effect is Trapcode DAO, Saint Adore.
It is. All right, and yeah.
Saika, you would populate images on the inside surface of the tunnel by choosing a pre-comp or footage file to be your texture image.
Exactly. You would bring in, like, say, if you had... Oh, the TARDIS is in here, right? So if I were...
Do it.
It's weird because it has an alpha,
color texture.
So who knows? So color texture, TARDIS. Look at that. Boom. Now we're inside a stretched out TARDIS tunnel.
Change the scale to make it like TARDISes, lots and lots of TARDISes.
Oh, yeah. Texture scale. Let's texture it a lot along X. There we go.
Yeah. Go back to the beginning of the tunnel so we can see more of it.
Oh yeah. Let's get back to kind of around
there
here.
You go.
Okay,
so many TARDISes.
Tarduses. And actually, let me see. What could I do? I could probably since this is, let me pre-compose the TARDIS there, and then in this one, let's just make it fill up everything. There we go. Okay. So now there's no holes or whatever. But
There we go.
look at this. This is incredible. Those reflections are coming from this little industrial room situation, and I haven't even played with lighting yet. We could add, like right now it's just some ambient random lighting, but we could throw in lights and stuff. Anyway, I am positive some other people asked us questions earlier
Yes,
on the
someone
interwebs.
go to the next tab on your screen.
So the next
This
tab,
one.
I believe that Nick Smith,
Yes.
who great suggestions to the show, sent us this beautiful intro, which I'm going to play and hope that we don't get dinged somehow, because people don't like when you spread their advertisements online. But
This is such a good. This
promo
is such a good
so
promo.
visually amazing. Like it takes you through this ridiculous journey of otherworldly, not quite right. Look, your reality is played with a lot. in
I
this
love
ridiculousness.
this intro so much.
Look at all that. So many. Like, how do you pitch that?
That was the question.
You have to you pitch this and say, oh yeah, it'll be like the cast, but like instead of just walking forward and doing like a little like we cross our arms and lean our backs against each other, let's have all the performers walk outside this. Realistically, walk through a green screen set
Right.
that we do all these kind of crazy comp things to. So there are.
The opening shot reminds me of the Upside Down from Stranger Things, except instead of floaty flakes, it's cherry Fruit Loops coming, and it's coming down.
It is beautiful. You know what this
Because
reminds?
at first you're like Stranger Things, then you're like, wait a minute.
So this effect is kind of cool. Like it's performers and they're being surrounded
Trash.
by a bunch of trash, a bunch of particles. In fact,
I have done a similar
in
effect.
fact, it reminds me a lot of this effect by our own Michael Zalapsky, where someone is walking through an industrial, boring part of town, and
Yeah.
suddenly
Suddenly,
they are swarmed by
trash.
trash.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did all the visual effects on this A$AP Rock and Blockhead Jazz Hands music video. They shot the elements and sent them to me, or the plates with the talent and sent them to me. I built all these trash pieces. I got models and stuff. Some of them built, some of them purchased. Rendered them in Cinema 4D, just spinning in place, like just so a cereal box spinning, a bottle spinning, some paper spinning, and then I set them all at the same amount of frames. So each one spins for the same amount of time, and I set them all sequenced back to back to back to back in a pre-comp. And then in Trap Code Particular, you can say, I want you to split the source for this sprite. So you tell it how many loops you've got going on. And so each particle will then take each sequence. And so each particle is just one sequence of trash spinning. And almost all these shots, I used Trap Code Particular's fluid physics, the vortex tube, to make them all spin around the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just get this really nice organic spinning happening around the person. Except for the very opening shot, because I needed them to come in.
How did you do this?
What? That's
Those shadows.
oh, ha! So shadows are done with Super Comp. I just
What?
that's just the volumetric shadow in Super Comp. I just put the point, but we're over there where that light is, on the left side of the screen. It's not quite accurate because there's multiple lights in the scene, but it works.
You tricky scamp. Oh my god.
Right?
Look at that.
This is all Trap Code Particular and Super Comp. This whole thing.
I love that, Michael. That is impressive. So,
I mean, and the great thing is, because of how the fluid physics move, I didn't actually have to track anything in most of these shots. Most of the shots, I just said, the emitter is like here where the guy is, and since the camera is moving with the guy most of the time, it just kind of worked. Like, it just came out great.
I love it. My goodness. I wish that that fluid physics had existed when I was doing Mary Poppins, because that was just a nightmare.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
a real similar process, but just the tools were more limited.
Yeah, the only shot I've got in there that didn't use the fluid physics was the very first shot where the trash comes in. I used the motion paths.
Yes. Motion paths are very fun if you've not played around with them in particular.
Yeah,
If you want
so I
something
just had a
really
couple
artful.
lights because I wanted the trash to swoop in straight and then spin around the guy. So I just used
So right here.
this shot right here.
You
So it's just a couple lights in After Effects for
beautiful.
that shot. Yeah.
So good. So good.
So that's all I did for that shot. So that, like I say, the very first shot of the Atlanta trailer made me think of that because it's trash basically falling around the characters. But then we get this. Now this part is again. Here's the thing about this trailer. It's an amazing, gorgeous, beautiful trailer, and it stuns you when you first watch it. But when you start like looking at each effect on its own, none of it is hard to do. Like it's all fairly easy. Like that shot there, all you would need is some fractal noise or Trapicode particular, really basic black and white, something organic behind the person moving through this shot, and then you would use chromatic displacement from Red Giant VFX
that's
Suite.
barely
That's
anything.
all it is.
Let's see. I'm going to import. I have this little thing called Stock Starter, where I threw in a bunch of stock footage because we are right now trying to teach you how to use every single one of our tools with brand new videos. And so I've got. Let's see. What would I use for that? For example, how about I don't know. There's here Seattle. So if I decided to have something whip by, what I would do is I would use something like this, like a solid with fractal noise on it. Just something boring like that. And then I would have let's see, let's add some chromatic displacement to this. Where are we? Chromatic displacement, and then for the displacement layer, we'll pick that white solid with its effects and masks. And in fact, let's just do this real quick. I would add a mask like this. That's, whoops, sorry, wrong layer. What have I done? Where did it go? Alright, so do a little mask like this, and then we'll feather it a teeny bit, like that at the front. And I could do this with feather points, but instead I'm just going to add a subtract mask with a bigger feather. Because sometimes that's just easier. There we go. So now it's got a little bit of a fall off or whatever. And you could go, whoops. Let me select all my masks. It's all going to so be worth it. Move them over here, and then they swipe by in a very short amount of time, right off screen like that. And now, when we turn on our original layer, and we have chromatic displacement, this is where the mask is relative to everything. And if we're pointing to that white solid with its effects and masks, and we start to display stuff, look what we get. We get a cool little gasoline trail, kind of like vapor trail, just like that. So you can soften the displacement layer a little bit so it's kind of the right scale of scale from that fractal, and then you get something like this. I didn't even set evolution keyframes on this, but actually it kind of works because it's moving.
Yeah, you don't even need to be displaced since the camera's moving like this map to move. But it would add another level of movement to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that very simple effect. So combination of those two effects to begin with, and then what do we move on to from that? After that, there's I think practical piano falling.
Oh, 100%.
That was filmed in a
piano
sound studio from two views, but cool with a little like dust kicked up because everything in VFX kicks up dust. Oh, look at that though. When the Crash Test's dummy dressed character comes in, watch this. I think the debris shifts over a bit. That might be a totally different sim.
Let me see it.
All right, so there's this. That's the real one. But now when we cut to here, I have a feeling... Oh,
yeah.
I think it's
different.
a 2D... I think it's a cheat. I think it's a 2D...
What's the keyboard shortcut to go?
I bet they filmed that piano just walking around it. So they had a couple views, and then just added like 2 frames of like here to it sort of rotates a little bit, but not much. But all of the rest of the little debris that flies off it is animated separately.
Yes.
And it's even enhanced by another one of those chromatic displacements right at the apex of the braking action. Watch. Boom.
Oh yeah, there's
Here,
a
a lot
ton
of chromatic stuff. And also I love
and that guy splitting up the shot is really cool looking too.
That's a really neat effect. And that could just all be... Let's see. Do you think that is done...
Oh, I have stuff to say about that shot too.
Let's talk about it.
Well,
Like the
first of
next
all,
one?
the tree growing is super easy to do with something like Teo from Insidium. If you've got the Insidium Fused pack, they've got a lovely tree growing stuff. But you could also do that in Trapcode Particular, kind of. You
can
could
do
make a
interesting
spawny,
things.
branchy tree look and then spawn stuff off of it. Now, with the new setup where you can spawn things from things like 16 levels deep, you could actually make a pretty convincing tree in particular.
I remember
But-
that making trees was one of my like biggest desires with Trapcode, just since the very, very beginning, because I knew it was a particle system. I knew you could render out ox particles at the time to do, trails and things like that. But so cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. And but see now, I mean, if I were to do this, someone said I want a tree growing, I would immediately reach, since I have Insidium Fused collection, I would just go, yeah, sure, and use Teo plant or Teo tree, because you can completely arc direct what it's going to look like, and then how you can animate how it's going to grow, and you'll get like a nice full 3D tree, which is what this is. 100% is just a full 3D tree, just
It's
gorgeously textured,
very
gorgeously
nicely
lit.
done. But
I love it.
Like even the physics on it aren't super complicated. Like when it bounces, all of the leaves aren't independently wavering. Watch this. The whole thing
Yeah.
jiggles, but
Yeah, it's just a mesh deformer
so
on a low poly mesh is driving it.
but like when you're distracted by frickin' alligator or crocodile. I didn't see its snout.
Ooh,
Alligator.
alligator. Yeah,
Alligator.
If you use the greater than or less than symbols, according to Ryan Doggenbaugh, you can go frame by frame on YouTube. If you want to go frame by
great.
frame.
Hey, that's kind
Yay.
of nice. And
Okay, let's talk about this
while-
shot since we're on it.
Yeah.
So that is gorgeous, but all that is they projected a shot of the front of the store onto a single plane and are using and project onto a single plane and using cloth physics.
So if you were to have let's see, let me. Oh my gosh.
Because the new cloth physics in Cinema 4D are great. Hashi, you've got a tree to do first. We're going to do the tree first. I was just
We're gonna
chatting
do
with
the tree
that.
first. Fine.
I got distracted.
Fine. Okay. The tree first. I'm going
Tree
to save
first,
this.
then
I'm
we'll-
going to save this in the meantime. I was going to quickly save this in the meantime. Save
There are
as,
so many. There are so many cool effects to talk about in this
no,
Atlanta
my
trailer.
Gosh, it's
Teaser,
it's
whatever.
Great. Where were we?
Trees. After Effects.
Trees.
Trees.
After Effects. Trees. Okay. Let me pull up the tree again.
Back.
'cause the tree is cool.
Go back.
Tree.
Go back to where it's growing. Right, yeah, there.
There you go. Okay, so that's
I bet that is Teo in Cinema 4D.
I bet you're right. That makes sense. I feel like if you're throwing together a promo like this, you would.
I mean, this promo feels very Max on 1E to me. Like, everything looks very Cinema 4D, Red Giant-y. Like, you could build all of this with Max on 1 pretty easy.
cool optical glowy stuff going on. It's a really cool combo of a lot of effects that are all attainable by one VFX artist. It's just that the artful combination of them is really cool, and would be, it feels like difficult to plan for. And so I feel like a lot of this was found in comp more than straightforward planned for. I don't mean to say that. I mean to say,
Some of it was clearly planned for because the actors are reacting to most of the things that are happening. Like, they jump when the piano hits. They're looking at that guy like he's weird. The ostrich, I think they ignore. But, like, they are reacting to it. So this was planned for.
selfie with a crazy.
And that's easy to do too. Because you just animate the texture on the alligator. Like it's so. Anyway, growing tree.
Growing tree. Were we talking about a tree?
Yes.
Tree. Oh yeah. So
How would you do it in Trapcode Particular if you wanted to get like crazy?
okay, if you want to get crazy, I would go into Trapcode Particular. Let me open up the designer window because that might be a faster way to preview sort of what we're talking about here. So I think that we actually have
Because the designer window does not have to wait for After Effects render engine. It can just do its own thing.
Yeah, little trick out there. If you can stay outside the After Effects render engine, you can do stuff pretty fast here. So if I went through here, let's see. We might even have something that is... Okay, so here are a bunch of sprites. Anyway, we'll do it from scratch here. So the emitter type, it'll be a point emitter, but instead of every direction, you would actually have it be directional. So it's pointed in one space, and in fact, I would turn the directional spread down to like 0. And actually, oh wait, no. I'm skipping the trunk for just a second, everyone. I'm skipping to the first branching of the tree, okay? So, because I want to. I'm going to switch the emitter type to explode, and what that basically does is right at the beginning it sets out a handful of particles like this. And the reason why I'm doing that is so now I can say, let's make this directional, and let's point it, I don't remember, is negative up? Nope, that's the Y. I always forget. Okay, let's, okay, there we go. Now they're flying up into the air-ish. And I can change the directional spread to be kind of wide like this. Maybe like that. The tree's kind of that shape if you were to trace the path of all of those things. And in fact, let's have fewer particles. Let's say there are 16 branches, okay? And these particles actually don't matter. They don't matter to me, but they will inform the shape of the tree. So on their motion effects, I'm going to maybe dial up a little bit of spin on them. And so when I play this through, you'll see from the very beginning, these particles are sort of going up and then like start to kind of go into a wild direction like that. And I might add some fractal fields on top of all that. And this will all be worth it in a second. It'll be kind of fun. So let's turbulence field. I want it to affect the position. Wait, why am I? Effect. Oh, displace. Sorry. I was looking for affect position, but it's now displace, which is a little bit more correct. So now we're getting these cool kind of wild paths like that, right? And so if I were to, in particular, add a new system, I could add particles that don't just emit from the original point. They actually emit from the parent system. Not only that, I could tell their motion to actually have 0 velocity.
And 0 velocity from
emitter
emitter motion.
0 velocity from the emitter motion. And let's see, what am I doing?
You need to tell them not to have the displacement work on them. So you need to put a blank displacement chip in.
Oh, yes. So on them, they're going to have a default block.
Yeah. Right.
There we go.
Down. Yep.
All right. And in the fields, same deal. Whoops.
That one.
Default.
That one, right. Yep.
All right. So now they are just being emitted by these systems, but they don't have any of their own. And on the particles themselves, we could tell them to have a lot longer length. I think that's back
life.
Life.
Yeah. Particle type life. Yeah.
All right. So let's let them stay around for longer than the comp. It doesn't even matter. It just needs to be over 5. So look at this. So now we've got this thing going on, and in 3D, you can see that I can rotate around this generated tree. And I'm going to pause here at the end. And what's kind of crazy about this is that you can start to mess around with stuff like, let's make this, I don't know, brownish.
Slightly lighter and less
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Whoops.
Could do more orange.
What do I want here? I want.
Go slightly more orange and way less saturated. Like pull it way down. And then up a little bit, yeah, and then just a little bit lighter. And then a little bit less saturated probably still. No, too much. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
All right.
That's a nice wood color.
So
It's a little bright, but
somewhere like here, I would also add shadowlets because they're basic.
Yes.
They feel a lot like. Let's just do shadowlets on. Look at that. So now, Particular is adding some kind of like just generally procedural shadows behind these pieces, and so now we get the effect of the branch happening. And now you could add even another system, and you could tell them emit these from a parent system. Which parent? The primary, please. And then we would do the same deal that we had to with the other ones. We would say a default block there and the default block there. So they're not following any physics. And other motion, I'm going to leave the velocity. Wait, I guess the velocity should be 0 and 0, but the emitter could be bigger. So the emitter type is from primary system, and let's change the particle type. Right now it's a sphere, but I could switch it to being a sprite, and then I could say choose sprite. And look at that. I mean, already the default white square looked kind of cool. But we have all these nature sprites down here. So if I were to select like a poplar leaf, I could say okay. And now there's a whole lot of them. So that's too many. So
popular, want to be popular.
That is phenomenal.
For our wicked fans.
You know who you are. All right, so you can't see them very well right now, so I'm going to affect the size a little bit. So let's turn up the size of these. Maybe make them about this big. I'm going to move my camera in. Like, look at this ridiculousness. So, I mean, already this is a cool thing that most people don't think of when they think of what you could generate in Particular. And in fact, since we're in this mode, let's mention that one of the user submitted questions was for a pretty cool effect that we are dancing kind of close to right now, which is seeing a bunch of flat sprites being translated with shadowlets along a 3D path. Kind of cool, right? So we're going to a little bit discuss that while we're in these weeds here, or these trees here. I don't know. What would you do to split these up? Would you just use some displacement?
Oh, hang on. Random rotation, of course.
Oh my goodness! How did I? Where are we? Random rotation. I am much more used to doing this outside. For the emitter,
I'd make them a little bit smaller and give them some random size.
Good call. Let's size random and make them all a little bit smaller. Let's just grow them. Well, like first of all, check this out.
Well,
you could keyframe growth on them like that. Their anchor point is wrong, but that's because I'm using one of the. I didn't make this a custom sprite that had the stem.
Right. You want the anchor point to be in the middle. And yes, try him. Yes, Blake Rizzo did get his song.
So already, like, look at this craziness. Like, most people don't. Yeah, again, I'm just repeating myself because I love this kind of stuff.
It's nuts that you can get that just in After Effects with just Particular, and you've only got three systems going. You could go crazier with it too.
It's ridiculous. And right now they're emitting from that original path, so they're all very closely knit. I don't remember if I jumped into the fields affecting the displacement of these, if I could displace them in X, Y, and Z and get the same result. Oh, whoa. Why didn't you do this, Atlanta trailer? Have all the leaves spray off in their own...
I would give them a smaller scale, or larger number on the scale, smaller, like to make them go crazy. Displace it, but do it with blah 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 blah. TF scale up, right that down. Make that 20. Oh, that's way big. But yeah, so when you offset it, like the larger that number is, the smaller the apparent scale
there we
is.
go.
You know,
Yeah, good call. Okay.
how do you change the anchor for a sprite? You would build the sprite, and the anchor is always going to be in the middle for a sprite. So you would just put your image to where it's in the top corner. You know, so where the
I also would say random still frame, not loop. Something I forgot to do there. But let's see. Oh, I need to.
you've got the thing animating. Yeah. Evolution off.
There we go.
Yeah.
Evolution speed 0. Right. Okay.
Yep.
So now from the beginning, in theory, on size over life. Why don't we do something like that?
Oh, 100% size over life.
Size over life will have it 0 at the beginning, and actually stay kind of 0 for a while. So it takes a second, and then they
grow.
bloom.
Yeah.
So now check it out. Yeah. Oh, and I can even turn off that primary.
You've got a little spike. You've got a little spike at the beginning over there, so they show up at full size. Just hit the smooth button. Yeah. Go into the hand drawing version. Hit smooth.
Boop. Boop.
Hit
Boop.
smooth.
Boop.
See if that makes it go. And just draw it in. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay, so now we have spread out leaves that start there, and if these were coming from the same anchor point, that would be amazing. Same for these. I would add some of this kind of stuff, right? There we go. Their life is fairly long, so you need that ramp up to be short. But yes, that looks amazing. All right, so let me press play again. Oops, got the pop thing again. Anyway, like this is fun. Like jumping it. See, it's glitchy. See, this could have ended up in the Atlanta trailer. I love.
And yes, you could make a cool Stranger Things find this way.
Yes, you could. You could make several systems. You could always duplicate a system like the branches, for example, and then give them their own displacement that's slightly different. And now look at this. Now you have additionally moving stuff.
And you can have branches come off of branches. You can say you want the chance of a parent particle to emit to be low. So it wouldn't emit from every single particle along the length of the branch. You'd only have it emitting from a couple of them. So you'd have branches emitting from branches, which then could produce leaves. Like you could go several layers deep on this tree, like an actual tree is. Because trees don't tend to grow branches leaves, say, from the trunk or even from the main limbs. It tends to be trunk, main limbs, branches, twigs, and the leaves are on the twigs. So you can make all of these levels. You can all make all these levels of what have you, of tree complexity, all inside Trapcode Particular if you wanted to get real fancy.
So if the emitter probability was like 4%, for example, and then you had the motion on these actually have a little bit more velocity to it, what that'll do is it would propel some out every so often, right?
Where are you at? What are you doing? No. You would have to spawn. You have to spawn particles and then spawn particles off of those particles.
Oh yeah, so those are the guide ones. They're zooming off into the.
Yeah. Don't forget, folks, that you can name your systems in Trapcode Particular. So once you start getting several levels deep, especially when you've got multiple systems emitting multiple systems, naming them makes it a lot easier to keep track of what you're doing.
Good tip.
I am currently working on a spot for a vacuum thing in one of my side gigs, my side hustles. And I have a bunch of different particular particles living in the same space. And let me tell you, being able to name the systems, which you couldn't do a couple of years ago, being able to name the systems is saving me so much time.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Spexarina, will we ever see Maxon let us have fluid sims or modernizing thinking particles interface? I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you that the new cloth and rope sims are particle based physics. So there is particle work happening at Maxon right now, and Trapcode Particular is also particles at Maxon. So there's a lot of particle things going on at Maxon right now, is what I will say to that.
That's a good answer for that one.
Oh, speaking of fluid sims, there's a couple of fluid sim questions we've had in the chat today, and I will say a lot of the time when you think you need fluid sims, you don't. Same vacuum company commercial I'm doing, they brought me on initially for sims and particle stuff, but a lot of the fluid flowing stuff you don't need to use a fluid sim for. If you just need to show liquid flowing along a line, just apply noises that animate. So you've got your cylinder with noises animating along it, giving it that ripply, liquidy look, and then use a spline wrap, and you've got your cylinder. So you've got this like flowy, liquidy thing going along with no sim time because there's no sim, and it looks great.
That's cool. All right. So yeah, see,
So-
and honestly, yeah, not dangerously complicated to render this out.
Oh yeah, and way back in the day, in my previous full-time job, I had a crashed aircraft, and I had fuel pouring out of it into a puddle on the ground for a scene. It doesn't matter why.
Like you do.
And I just had the same kind of a thing. I had just a cylinder with noise displacement running down it, and then I had a formula displacer to give the ripples in the puddle. That's all I needed, and it worked.
That's
No fluid sims.
It's a really really good point. Don't reach for a fluid sim when a fractally displaced cylinder would do the trick. All right, so yeah, trees growing. Gosh, so many effects in this. What are we at? We're at the hour mark. If you are just joining us, this is VFX and Chill, and we are breaking down random audience suggestions, talking about the VFX right now from this Atlanta promo, where there's all sorts of ridiculous stuff. That right now we like. Look at this. This crazy walking alligator displacing stuff. And that's where I would, for the first time, reach into something like Cinema 4D, and I would add a plane. I would actually do this as a down shot.
I would do the tree in Cinema 4D. I wouldn't do it in particular
Well, yeah.
for that shot.
That's a
but
good point.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, not every, yeah. So let's just, for fun, let's add a new material, and on this material, let's bring in that silly image that I just saved. I'm working on a gelatinous cube, cheap tricks for you all, and I'm going to try to get Ellie Wade to help me make it look awesome in Redshift.
And let me tell you, the new random walk subsurface scattering that just dropped in Redshift yesterday will make that gelatinous cube look amazing.
Sleuth. All right, so I've got this plane here. I'm going to move it up a little bit. The whole point of this is, it's just it's a thing. It's a storefront, whatever. I'll turn up its little preview size, no scaling, so it looks all nice like that. And then I believe that somewhere in our asset browser, Michael, you were saying we might have a mouse
We do.
that's animated? What?
Yeah.
Look at
Look
that.
at that little guy.
Look at him. Okay, so let's bring in a mouse. I could not afford.
He's so cute.
Aw, he's so cute.
And hang on, if you go into his actual character rig up top right, you'll see this mouse's walk is being created by C-Motion,
Whoa,
which is an
so-
amazing procedural animation tool inside Cinema 4D that nobody talks about.
Wait,
And
so I could make the stride more like that of
Yeah. and you could slow it down, like
and I
by
could
making
make
it.
the stride
yeah.
like.
Yeah. Now hit play. But you need to make your timeline way longer. Make it like
Oh wait, why am I
321 frames. 321 frames.
Where's my
What are you looking for? What are you
I
doing?
just don't know why my play range was at. I have a lot of frames.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. Let's make that longer. Let's make that. Oh, I undid too far. Yes. Okay. Now, yeah. Here's the time of the crawl. Now, I made the stride too big. Okay. Let's make the stride just a little bit. There. That's kind of like that crocodile. Maybe a little slow. I'll make it a little faster just for fun. There we go. So check it out. A quadruped right out of the asset browser. Walk in like this. I love that.
Just needs the tail to be animated, but we can deal with that in this other show. We're worried about the cloth sim part of this.
We are.
That's why we're not grabbing an alligator.
That's a good point. But what I would do, just to mention it, is if you're using the rotation tool, I think we talked about this last week. When you click on rotate, one of the options is to check the per object transform button. I learned this from Noseman. And if you were to select all the tail joints like this, and you had the rotate tool on per object. Watch this. When you turn, oh, I bet it's being controlled by something else. Never mind. But the point is, per object transform would curve everything with the same amount that you turn the first one, and so you can get an actual thing. It looks like there's a spline rigged up for the whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ignore
There's
that all
tweaking
for
that you'd
now.
want to do.
Sorry. So let's grab all this. Let's Alt G it. Let's copy it and go paste it in here. Okay. So I don't actually want the lights and the camera. I just want my mouse. Let's see. How big is this mouse? Is it mouse sized? Okay, so it's mouse sized, but I want it to be alligator sized. So what would happen, Michael, if I just scaled up this null right here like this? What's going to happen to the poor mouse? Yeah. It gets ridiculous, right? And that's because you actually have to, before you scale up something that has built-in animation, you switch this over to the object and its animation select right there. So I can actually scale the whole thing up. And now you can see that it's not messing with the rig there. So let's put this null, whoops. What am I doing, Michael? I thought I knew.
Oh, psh.
Oh, the
Just move the-
character is probably...
Yeah.
Oh, why can't I move my character?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
I'm guessing it's linked up to an expression somewhere that I don't know about. Sorry. Okay,
Can you? Did you make that null?
I did.
Let us in.
I thought that by putting everything in a null and pasting it in here, I'd be able to scale up the whole animation.
We'll just scale everything down.
What a concept. Michael, you're brilliant.
Scan it up to scale it all down to mouse size.
There we go. Okay, let's scale this stuff down. Boop, 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 boop. Now it's a giant mouse. Perfect. All right, let's even just keep this all easy for the mouse and rotate this thing like that. And then I think what we would do here is, let's see, so the ground plane is the ground plane. Why wasn't the original ground plane a ground plane? I don't remember moving it. Whatever. Coordinates.
0.
0 on that, and 0, but like
Why do you have a ground
little
plane
bit. I
the
want it
first
to be
place?
a cloth collider.
Oh, I don't think you need a cloth collider.
You don't think I
'Cause
do?
in the-
Oh, if I turn off
no.
gravity and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So no plane, just my storefront.
Yeah.
I'm going to apply a couple of tags now. So on this plane...
Well, hang on. Before you go crazy, we need to make sure your plane has enough subdivisions to look cool.
All right. So I'm going to put in, let's see, 60 width by... let's do 80 width by...
Press NB on your keyboard, and we'll be able to see how many subdivisions you've got. So you're going to need, way more than that.
Bloop. Because they got that cool, like, real curvature kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go about this heavy, is how comfortable I am for the moment. And let's turn this into cloth by going up to here and going to simulation tags and saying cloth. And then in the cloth settings, I'm going to go to its forces.
Project level.
Oh, yeah. Let's go to the project level, and we'll turn off gravity here. So that would be under...
Simulation. Not bullet.
Simulation, sorry. 0.
For those who don't know the difference, Bullet is the old Dynamics engine that is in Cinema 4D that does soft body and rigid body dynamics. That is currently still the way you do those two things, and the Simulation tab now covers the new cloth and rope dynamics.
That is awesome. Okay, so I can't move... I thought I would, if this mouse were grouped, that I could move it using one of these things, but apparently not. Okay.
I don't know how it's built, so I can't answer that.
That's a good point. Actually, let's see. It was under the C motion rig. Can I modify that? Nope. Nope. It's not that. Nope. Nope. All right, something's
Just
going on.
just move. Yeah. I don't understand why it won't move when you move the null.
I'm a little confused about that too. So I'm guessing that it's linked up to some very clever things that are purposely keeping it in place.
Go back to C motion. Go back to C motion for a
C
second. I wanna
motion.
see-
All right. Object. Walk static. Oh, line.
Or path.
Okay. Play.
You might want to turn your cloth off.
Wait, I didn't even tell it to be a cloth collider yet. But look at this.
Well, it's working. It's working.
It's working. I thought that I would have to tell the mouse to be, my goodness, spam bots, leave us be. Look at that. I can't believe that worked. I mean, I can, and I was here with Michael Zalapsky advising. But look, we've got freaking alligator mouse moving along. Okay, that is So here we are back in this. Let's turn to some other audience suggestions that we had. Just since Atlanta was giving us a lot, and also with the computer was a little bit fed up at that point. Here we are. So check this out. This is kind of a wild trails situation. This is a person who likely was filmed in this location, running up and doing a little flip off of this block. And then what someone had to do, and this is tedious as heck, but they would have had to roto out the performer from the entire shot, and likely just kept rolling after they completed this flip or something like that and moved the camera. I'm guessing that this is a real camera move and a fake person and trails. What do you think?
This person could easily be shot on a green screen, not moving, and then tracked into the shot. Because look, if you look at his foot, where his foot hits the ground, if you go back right there, and then the camera moves, that foot is not stuck to the ground where it should be.
It's not.
So, however they did this, they did not get the track to work right.
So yeah, a little bit weird. So what we would need for this?
I've got it.
Okay.
It is trap code particular.
Okay.
And it's doing one particle per frame, using a video footage of the person doing the jump as the sprite. And they're just moving the emitter to try to match where the motion of the guy should have been, and scaling it to make it seem right, and then have the camera tracked in. I think that's how they did it, because that would explain, that explains everything about how it looks, where it doesn't quite work right.
That is good. I like that. Let me see if let's see if we could possibly recreate something.
Yeah, because none of the feet are sitting where they should be on the ground. They're moving. They feel like they're moving with the camera, except that they're not moving correctly with the camera.
Okay,
so that's my thought of how they did it. Because otherwise, you have to by hand place every still frame in 3D space, and I think if they did that, it would be sitting on the ground better.
That's a good point. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's try to recreate something like this.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do it. And you know what? If I crash this system one more time, we'll just call it. We'll call it, and we'll see you all in September. In case I didn't mention it out loud, the show will return in September, but we are taking the month of August off. Not because we don't love you, but because we're working on lots of cool stuff for y'all.
And this show may be taking off, but the rest of the Maxon training team stuff is still going on. For example, someone asked at the very early part of this chat, is there any way to take the stuff that Ellie was showing us a couple weeks back, making stuff in Cinema 4D? Is there any way to integrate that into live action footage? Yes, and there's tons of ways to do it. And we have an Ask the Trainer session coming up next month that covers exactly integrating 3D objects into live action, and that link is about to land in your chat boxes now.
Oh, that's perfect. See,
So if it's on the
we have you
Maxon Training
covered.
Team YouTube channel, you head over there. You can sign up to be notified when that one goes live, and it is integrating 3D objects into live action. Boop boop ba doop, just for you.
Amazing. I am trying, some would say in vain, to import some stuff. Let's see if that worked. I tried to download something I just found on Storyblocks here.
Someone says there are contact shadows when he lands. Yes, there we are. So I think he was rotoed out and from the shot, or I think someone did the actual move at the place to get those shadows. Although you could easily fake those because it's an overcast day, so all you need to do is slightly darker when his feet hit. So you could easily fake those shadows just by putting in a dark solid at a low opacity and feathered.
All right, so I'm going to track this 3D camera in the background for a second, and I don't have green screen footage of a person running and flipping. So we're going to have to try to see if we could generate that really quickly. So maybe we could go to our
Mix them up.
lovely friend Mix.
Hey, you should log in.
I should log in.
You should.
Oh, it's a good
should
point.
log
It's
in
been a
sometime.
while since I was on
It's
this
been at
site.
least 5 seconds since you were logged in.
Okay, we're logged in.
I'm excited. I'm excited about some hardcore parkour.
Hardcore. It looks like our friend from last week is still in here, but I need. I'm sorry. I need a different, more athletic. Nothing wrong. Like no shaming on this minion type. It's just that they don't flip well. That's all. You know what? I'm just going to use a standard. I want something low poly and simple from here. Where are the X and Y bots? Probably in alphabetical order. All right. Here we go. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to go to animations, and we're going to say flip. Someone must have there's a running forward front flip. Let's see what that looks like. That exciting enough? Is that an exciting enough move? What do we think? Kinda. Yeah, that's fine. We're just going to go with it. All right. Let's real quick download this. This is also a good way if you need to do previs and you don't really have drawing skills. You could always just go to Mixamo. Grab some characters, find some cool poses, and grab them for stuff. All right. So I've got that FBX now, and I'm going to Cinema. I'm opening you up again. Don't betray me. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get this scene normalized. All right, so let's grab 3 kind of spread out ground plane versions. We'll set the ground plane in origin, and we'll create a solid end camera. Then I'm going to rotate this ground to be sort of pointing, let's see, this direction. So Z is sort of kind of aligned with the sidewalk. And then I'm going to run one of my favorite little let's see, where are we? Normalized track things, a free script available from the normalized track video. So all I have to do here is rename this floor, and then I'm going to say normalized track. And when I've done that, now that is the center of my 3D comp. Really cool. So in the meantime, let's try to import that flipping character here. So let's create a new... Actually, I didn't mean to do a new one. I meant to open that running project. All right. So real boring for right now. We're going to create... we've got this run and jump thing. All right? It's 33 frames, so pretty short. Let's... you know what we could maybe do? Let's see. What would happen if... we had a new composition, and I should save it first. Let's save this as flip. And then in here, we'll import that same file and see if this works. that beep making everyone else as nervous as it's making me. Just broadcasting while my PC
I don't hear the beep
screams.
actually.
Oh, I'm glad my noise gate is catching that at least. All right, so I've imported a Cinema 4D file right here, and I'm going to drag it into this comp. And what I'm hoping happens, let's see, I'm going to, instead of the Cinema 4D camera, I'm going to use a centered comp camera and then add one of those. Yes, I know. All right, so now I can bring in the Cinema 4D file right into After Effects, barely anything done, which is pretty cool. And I'm not going to reference the other one very much. I'm just going to kind of remember it's sort of that angle, right? Because there's sort of a weird effect that you get from it. So now I can just play this through, and I've got that cool flip, right? Now, my guides, do I turn them off in here? Let's see. Let's do viewport for the setting, and then right here, I want to stretch this out so it's kind of slow motion. So let's quickly go into the Cinema 4D file, and I'm going to go to a window, to my dope sheet, and click on the Mixamo hips here. And then, wait, is this baked or something already? No, what's going on here? I'm in some mode that is not showing me my sheets, my motions. I don't like that. Where are my keyframes? Michael, I'm letting everyone down so hard today. Where are my things?
Oh, go to takes at the top.
Oh,
Yeah, so you need to take that take that has your animation in it, and which is I think the Mixamo one, and
what
go into
the
takes. Go into that take, and I think has it. The main one might have it. It's one of these has the keyframes in it. I can't remember. It's got to be that one.
There they are.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm just going to grab these. I'm going to make this thing, let's make this comp like 150 frames long. And let's see, zoom out here. I'm going to stretch out these by grabbing this little tab right up here and doing that. I don't know this, I mean, I could convert this to a motion clip, might actually be less of a linear stretching out of that. But now this is a cool slow-mo flip, all right? So now let me just quickly save the project, and then I'll jump back into here, and you'll notice that automatically it added all those frames here in After Effects 2. So now we have this coolness running, jumping, flipping, exciting stuff. Just so it's not constantly referring back to the Cinema 4D file, I'm just going to quickly render out a sequence for this, and we'll call it flip. And then we'll render that out as a TIFF sequence. Now, TIFFs with alpha should be a little bit faster loading than PNGs, right? In theory.
TIFF is faster than PNG, yes. Faster to encode, faster to decode.
All right, so then I'm going to flip my little PNG sequence into here. And so it's going to look very silly at first. Actually, not bad. Surprisingly, not too bad. The speed actually kind of matched up pretty well. So then what we were talking about earlier was that you could add a top solid here and add particular. And now this is going to be a little bit unusual because we're going to be using the frames of this as sprites being emitted by the particular system. And because of that, that means that these sprites are actually kind of big. So just because you don't see a whole lot of detail on all of them, I'm going to make a pre-comp of these flip frames that is smaller. So let's do that. Let's go in here. Let's make a new composition. out of that footage, and I'll lock the aspect ratio, and then right in here I'll just type divide by 4 and then fit that down. So now it's a much smaller little flip thing. Let's call this flip trails. And now instead of the full res, I'm bringing in this smaller version right here so I can use it as particles. So now let's go to this solid that has particular on it. And for the emitter type, we're going to say point. We're going to say, let's just do, I guess actually 100 particles per second is actually probably pretty good, huh? We'll say particles per second 100. And then under the particle type, we're going to say sprite. And then we're going to, let's see, under the sprite controls, we're going to choose the layer flip. And we're not going to use a random loop. We are going to use, let's see, where is it? Current frame freeze. So that means that whatever frame it was sampled from, it's just going to keep that frame for the rest of its lifetime, which right now is 3 seconds. I'm going to turn that up to be 5 seconds just so none of these particles disappear. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is going to be really weird. It's going to be a small emitter situation right here. That's my prediction. Okay, you may not even be able to see that. It's basically these little leaves blown in the wind being emitted, which is kind of ridiculous. So let's jump over to here and make the, for the emitter, we're going to turn the velocity way down on it to 0. And we're going to turn off velocity from motion also. And then we're going to, let's create a null that is representative of where the particles are being emitted from so we know. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, there is a question in the chat from Machiavelli saying that they had an Element 3D thing with a small flying robot and later wanted to add a lens flare to the eye, but they couldn't figure out how to get it connected. I would say this option of creating a group null like Hashi just did, in particular, you have the same sort of thing in Element. It makes it easy to animate whatever model you've got flying around. I would place a light or a null, depending on what lens flare plugin you're using, in your scene and put it roughly where the robot's eye is supposed to be and parent it to that null. And then you can easily drive the position of your lens flare that way.
Great.
Or
answer.
Make your eye in your robot very luminous material and drive the flare by the luminance, because you can do a luminance only pass out of Element, and you can, with some lens flare plugins, drive the position of a flare by luminance of a single layer. So make a layer black with white where the luminance is for the eye, and the lens flare be driven that way.
All right, so what I am doing right now is I ended up scaling up the particles. And so the particles, as you'll recall, are single frozen frames of this. I could use a higher quality sprite, but I want this to be fast for this stream. So I've put my null back here, and since I'm like a frame in, it's emitted just this first frame, and you can see that it exists in 3D space. So I could place the emitter here to begin with, and if I start moving, the camera's going to move past the emitter, and the emitter is going to be staying back here as the camera moves past it. So what I actually want is that by the end of this cycle, I want the position of this null to have moved across X space to end up further down into the distance. I don't know how much distance it needs to travel. Let me see here. Whoops. You know what? I'll figure it out right here. I'll just go to this frame and I'll grab that coordinate and move it to here. So look at this. Whatever I do here is actually going to determine the full translation over time of this, which is going to be way cool. So now I'll move that keyframe way out to the end of my timeline. And now we should have something pretty close to what that flipping animation thing was. Whoa, except it's at lightning speed.
But yeah, that's it. That's the thing.
That's the effect. All right, let's move. Okay, let's move the end point way closer. And let's move the beginning point to be further off to the side, so it's like it starts on the lawn, and so we can get a little bit more of the visible translation. Okay, check it out. Here we go. Oh, Michael, you're brilliant. That's
See, there
exactly
it
what it
goes.
is.
I'm pretty sure that's how they did it in the thing.
So you're even getting the same kind of like cool like 3D drift thing. Now, one of the ways that you could get more cool linear things out of this is like one is increasing the particle count. So if I went to here, for example, and went to the particular system, it's at I think 100 particles per second. But if I turned this up to, let's see, 200, and let's try even more, let's try 750. Let's see what we're getting. So we're starting to get more continuous lines here, but the main problem is that there are distinct moments when the frame switches to the next frame, and they're all kind of, if the shoulder is in a different spot, you're not really getting a continuous flow. So the way you would combat that is you would need in between additional frames to make this happen. I don't know if it would work if you went in and turned on frame blending with interpolation on this, since it's been pre-comped for a second. Let me see if it thinks about it at all. So current frame, freeze, and time sampling. It looks like not. So what I would actually need to do is
Yeah, you have to make
the flip longer. Oh wait, actually maybe it is. It's still thinking. I don't know.
Well, I was thinking if this doesn't work, and I wouldn't expect it to, you would be able to make the pre-comp, just make the pre-comp a higher frame rate.
Oh yeah, good point.
Then that should just work.
That is brilliant. Yeah, let's just make this 240, and then we'll jump back to the flip trails, and then in here, I don't know if I need that enabled or not. Oh, Alexa.
What sort of frame blending are you using?
Let's see. I thought I was
Are you using the
optical flow. So we're
So it
technically
should
adding
work.
all these additional artificial frames. I mean, this is also kind of low quality, whatever. So now frame blending is on. Let's see what happens. It should be pulling from more
But
sampled
it
frames.
isn't.
It's thinking.
Oh, do you
So-
have the preference in After Effects set to preserve frame rate of nested comps? Because you will need to turn that on.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, it is doing it. You can tell
Yes.
early on. So it looks like cool salmon or wood or something like that. But what's happening is you can see that the frame blending between each gives this a much smoother curve. And if you had a higher contrast of, clothing and stuff like that, you would get the effect that they are talking about, or that they are demonstrating in theirs. In fact, I may not even need this many particles over time, since there would be more of a linear look anyway. See, look how much smoother that makes it. Pretty wild, right? I didn't know we would actually
yes.
go through this one in such detail. So we're to the last 15 minutes here. I do remember there was one last bit that was also suggested by Trium Visual, which is somewhere in here. Let me see if I can see where that suggestion was. It was one of the very first ones they made. So where are we? It was this one.
Ah, yes. Love this.
So this is a classic, really cool effect. And in fact, playing with the time blending just now reminds me of how you can accomplish this
And how they
effect
did
well.
accomplish it. Because look at his hand.
It's definitely requiring some of that. All right. So now, obviously, this is more than a human body can spin. So there's some kind of trickery going on.
The
here.
guitar would also suffer some.
So the way that might have come to be, I think that we downloaded something that could work for this. Let's pre-comp this. Awesome. I love it. It's someone on a turntable is the thing. And so because we have someone on a turntable, it means that we're seeing multiple sides and angles of that person at different times. But if you think about it, at this point in the clip, you can see her looking off to screen left. And if you And when she's here, like, what am I saying, Michael? she
Just make a solid and a gradient and show them
just
what you're doing.
Okay, I'll show him what I'm doing. I'm going to add a solid. I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to add a gradient ramp to it. Once that gradient ramp is on it, I can hide it. I don't need to see it anymore.
Don't need to see it.
But now I can go to this layer, and I'll go to an awesome effect called time displacement. Boom!
Ooh,
And you turn
terrible.
on it and you see this, and you're like, what is this? This is stupid. Why would I ever use this? And you don't
Who would use this
investigate
effect?
further. But that's because you need a time displacement layer. So I'm going to point this to our white solid, and not just plain like that. I'm going to point it to its effects and masks. And now you're going to see something interesting is happening.
What?
Wait a second. It's almost as if she forgot something and turned back real quick to check out what it was. But in fact, what has happened is this gradient right here, which we will make, let's overlay it for a second so you can see. Wherever it is white, it is showing me frames from the future. And wherever it is black, it is showing me frames from the past. And wherever it is 50% gray, it is showing me the frame information from that frame. So now as I play through, look at this bizarre effect you get. It's almost like the front of her hip is turning faster. And what's really cool about this effect is that if you have the time displacement turn to a greater displacement than just 1 second, you start to get really wild results. So let's say, for example, 3 seconds or so. One thing that you can do is you can keyframe the amount of displacement, and that's, I think, what happened in the guitar clip. So look at, like, just with a gradient ramp and somebody spinning, you can get this really cool effect here.
I love it so much. It's so easy to do. You just need someone spinning slowly on something, and then time displace.
Yeah, and spinning slowly is the key to this. If you're trying to do it on faster motion, what you'll notice is as I zoom in, it's really clear why this is originally called a slit scan effect, because you're scanning different frames and putting them in these really blocky fashion like this, and so it's not very smooth. Now, up here there's another thing called time resolution, and if I turn that down, you'll see that you can start to get more of this kind of, into more like Max Headroom territory, where the resolution of these is a lot greater. And then if you'll watch, as I turn this up, there will be a point. It looks like this point is around 60. And in fact, it should really be wherever the frame rate of the original is. But around that point, you would not get any additional detail, even if you turn the time resolution up crazy like this. And the reason is the same thing that happened in our particular emitter scene. There is no frame in between this value and this value. There's just that frame and this frame. So
if you put it at 25, you should get the same quality.
Exactly. So don't waste. So if this is good enough for you, don't waste any extra time resolution. That's not worth it. But if you didn't think that this was smooth enough, one thing you could do is you could tell After Effects, add some frame blending. And not just standard frame blending, because that's going to kind of blur out some interesting things. Do some frame interpolation. So
it's like Twixtor, but included in After Effects.
Exactly. And now, if I decided to turn up the time resolution on this clip, it's going to take a lot longer to think about it, because what it's doing is for every single slit, it is trying to calculate exactly a frame within this, including interpolating a new value for that frame. So I'm going to let this bake for just a second. It's going to think about it. And watch this. Let me see if I can take a picture while it's still thinking. All right, so it's thinking. And now it's completed. So look at this difference. When I reveal the, show my snapshot. Was it showing it? I missed it. I could do it backwards. Okay, so watch this. If I turn off frame blending, you'll see it become more pixelated again. And that's because it's generating extra frames to make this smoother. So if you really wanted to turn the resolution all the way up to like 150 or something like that, and you're willing to wait the time of this time interpolation, you will get a really smooth, twisted human. And even in the example that we were looking at, they didn't go all out with the resolution. I mean, the GIF quality is reducing a lot of what you see, but all this warbliness is coming from some of the time displacement they were doing here. So anyway, a wobbly answer for a wobbly effect. Pretty cool.
And the great thing is you can animate the position of the knots of your gradient. You could add colorama to make the gradient more detailed. You could add fractal noise over top of it in overlay mode. You could do all kinds of crazy things if you wanted to make it really warpy and glitchy and nuts.
You could do some ridiculous stuff. I mean, this would be a place where you could add some bend it like Beckham in here and just like move this down so the parameters are high enough, and now you can kind of have your character go like wah 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 wah. So you can do all sorts of ridiculous stuff to add the cartooniest of vibes to a real object. I'd been interested before to try this effect with something. I don't know if I have it saved anywhere, but let me save this and I'll peek if it's deep in the void of my crazy. Oh, maybe it is. Let me see if this has the footage linked still. I thought it would be cool to do this to footage of a merry-go-round.
Oh, that would be cool to do to footage of a merry-go-round.
Basically, anything that is spinning around a central axis, so you can, or honestly, whatever you could match with a gradient's axis, you can displace in time in a way that will make it actually look naturally like you're getting different frames of rotation from different spots. Now, I think that this is one of the examples where I have some HD piece of footage and I have the frame interpolation turned on. It hasn't done this for a while, so it's got to calculate something like 100. Check it out. Frames out of this stupid thing. So kind of wild, but also kind of neat. I don't remember if I ever ended up, did I save it? No, I didn't save it. Oh well. It looks kind of neat, right? Look, that merry-go-round is getting all twisted. So, yeah, twisted. Twisted effects, cool, exciting stuff. And we
Twisted like a sister.
Twisted like sister. Well, Michael, this has been an interesting episode. Not a glitch to be found in it. But we promise we'll have it all worked out by next season.
We do not promise that.
We promise in writing, and I'm having it recorded on this stream.
We don't promise that.
See, I'm just recording something that I can play back in an echoey voice, like over black, like when the season comes back, like, there'll be no mistakes this time.
No mistakes this time.
And then the stream will die. So, everybody, thank you so much for participating in the show. We are really excited to be back in September when Seth will be rejoining us and can tell us all about the lovely adventures he had on whatever planet he is visiting right now. Yeah, in the meantime, we will still be around online, and you're welcome to ask or submit any questions that you would like. And you can always submit questions here in the comments below, whatever you would like to know. And just like Michael said, even though this show is taking a break for a month, there are lots of other exciting shows on the Maxon Training Team channel, on Maxon. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some kind of there's probably a show in the middle of there somewhere. All sorts of lovely things to keep you entertained. So, stay tuned. Stay tuned, especially to the Maxon Training Team channel, where there will definitely be lots of exciting knowledge about people who know Cinema 4D very well.
We love you. Follow Red Giant News on Twitter or Instagram if you want handy tips for pretty much all of our tools. Tuesdays is usually 2 or 3 little handy tips dropped. And it'll help you make your work better, faster, smarter, stronger, etc.